It's the Hedonistic Way podcast.
It's a way of life.
Tastes like freedom.
It's the most divine microcosm.
Mind-blowing.
It's a revolution.
Heart wide open.
Liberated love. It's liberated love. Conscious conversations.
The exhilarated expansion of self.
Sacred sexuality. Call it whatever you like. All I know is it feels amazing.
It's the most decadent way. It's the most decadent way to live life.
Intimate and intuitive conversations with epic humans who are disrupting the status quo and living a life with untypical success. Hello and welcome to the Hedonistic Way at Midday show. I am your host, Renee Main, and it is an absolute privilege to be here with you today with my slightly croaky voice and all, so please forgive me. I am so super excited about today's guest because if there was ever a pure embodiment of the amazing Mary Magdalene, then I swear to God, this woman would be it. Her work is out of this world, and she's just someone who, when I was thinking about her, she makes you feel so many amazing things all at once. But her work that she's doing in this world is absolutely invaluable and it's cutting edge. She is such an honest reflection of gender reconciliation, and the work that she's doing in this space is really something else. She is a facilitator in the Dancing Eros community. She is all things conscious relationships. She's a part of the Awakening Connections movement as well. So I'm very excited to bring you Alejandra, the amazing, as always, I don't know what is going to be spoken about today, but it is always epic and on point. So I have been a part of, I've done Alee's Dancing Eros course, and it is one of the most, probably the most transformational courses I have ever done. It is something, if you're unfamiliar with it, it is, I call it, it's a personal development where spirituality and sensuality, they all meet, but it's done through dance, and it's done by meeting your archetypes. It is absolutely out of this world. You're so right. And the reason why I have this going on with my voice is because I was lucky enough to be a part, to step in and to help out with Friday night's course at Dancing Eros, and it was Wild Woman, so hence my voice has not yet fully restored. Hello,
Hi.
beautiful.
Okay, here we go. I was getting really stressed trying to get on.
I know, it's always those first couple of minutes is like, what is happening? Beautiful.
Here we are.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. I was just telling everybody about my voice, and it's from Wild Woman on Friday night, and it hasn't fully restored.
Yes. Yeah, I had some whiplash from lashing my head around.
Yes. Yeah, my neck is a little bit tender as well. But I want to jump straight in, Alee, and I've really, the work that you do is so, I said cutting edge, and it's really potent, but it's one of those things that you don't realize how potent and powerful it is until you experience it. So why is it one of those things, the work that you do, why is it so hard to describe it until you've actually experienced how powerful it is. Why do you think that is?
I think it's the nature of embodiment work. I think it's a nature of embodiment work in that it isn't something that you're conceptualizing with your mind. It's something that it's like you're breathing it into your body. You're moving it into your body, and things are shifting. You're actually accessing, I'd say, your subconscious body, because I don't think we have a subconscious. Well, we do have a subconscious mind, but part of that subconscious mind is in the intelligence of the body. And so I think half the time you don't really know what is happening. It's not something that you are understanding per se on a intellectual level. It's an experience, and I think that's why it's so powerful, because it's so deep. Like, it goes into your cells, and it's like your body's intelligence works it out. So how do you then put that into words? It's like, I don't know what the fuck happened. I went and I moved and I breathed and I screamed and I got in touch with this trigger, and then I felt really free, and then I cried and I orgasmed, and then I was like a different person.
And then I went home.
That's right. And it just kept percolating and working on me, and I had no idea how deeply impacted I was until 3 months later, when I responded to something in a completely different way, or where I caught in this incredible relationship in my life, or where all of a sudden I just, quit my job because I knew in my core it wasn't right for me. So that's why I think it's so hard to explain and describe.
I'm really intrigued by, you talk about your body's intelligence and it being, your subconscious body. That's something that is real. Like, we hear a lot about the subconscious mind and perhaps even the body's wisdom. So tell me about, why are we not listening to our bodies, and why is movement so important?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're not listening to our bodies because we're afraid of what our body is going to reveal. Because there's things stored in our body that are too confronting to bring up. Like, we've numbed it down, we've pushed it down for a reason. More than likely at a time in our lives when we just didn't have the resources, or we weren't in a safe situation where it was actually really intelligent to, perhaps intelligent to suppress. And then who wants to go back there? Nobody wants to go back there. So I think that's one of the major reasons we're afraid to really listen to our bodies, because we are afraid of what our bodies will reveal. I think also because the body, I believe our truth, like our deepest truth, is in our body. And I think sometimes it feels safer or easier to not tell ourselves the truth, because it's painful. It's painful of like the truth that I hate this job. Like, I hate this job, but it's so convenient, and it's solving all these financial issues that I've got, and I've got this debt, and it's such a bad idea to listen to my body's truth right now, because it doesn't make safe, logical, sense.
It's the unknown, and that's absolutely.
And
then with that, I had a question in there, and I'm just trying to kind of recall what it was. It was the body's wisdom. But how then is, because I was talking about this with my partner over the weekend, and then this body's wisdom and the safety element, and sorry, I'm just trying to capture it because I can feel it in my body, and I'm trying to find the words, is
what landed for me then is that is so true. Is I've often wondered why, you know, like, and so for many of like the people watching you who know my history, is that physical abuse, domestic violence, family violence was a part of my upbringing, and then again in my own relationship. But once I broke that cycle, I did not even, like, my family didn't even know. We didn't, like, apart from when it was actually in our house and happening. But I did not tell my best friends. I did not even share it with, like, my partner for years. It was like 10 years down the track before I even started to talk about it. Because at the time, you're just at a different stage of the unfolding. So I just really want to honor everyone in their journey, is that, you know what, like, if you don't speak out in that first initial moment, it's because it's not safe to, you know, and that's your body's wisdom saying that. But when it comes up again, it's absolutely time. So I want to ask you then, the correlation between the body's wisdom and our physical bodies, because I was thinking about this work that you do, and it's real general kind of overused term, so, and I don't feel like it really captures what you do, but the self-love element, maybe self-honoring, is that you see all sorts of body shapes and types and colors and everything else, and there's such beauty in that. What has been your understanding with the correlation between the physical body and the body's intelligence as you beautifully describe it, and what happens when you start to see the fusion and the honoring happening in those two things?
Is the question the difference between the what's going on in the body and its wisdom versus the aesthetics of the body? Because you mentioned the different types and kind of.
Is there a correlation between the two? You know, like
Yeah. Okay. So, and you mentioned the self-love piece. So I'm just gonna
yeah,
see what comes out.
whatever comes up for you. Yeah, absolutely.
I think what happens is through connecting to our body, we're starting to realize, like, we can only realize how valuable our internal world is through connecting with it. I don't know if that like, for starters, if that makes sense. Like, we have to like it's like we're terrified to look within because we're so scared of what we're going to discover there. And then there's this a big part of what we're afraid of is the shame that we're going to confront. But what I find happens is that when people go, you know, particularly on the Dancing Eros journey, is that they actually realize that what's inside is, like, invaluably, ridiculously beautiful. Like, that there's so much potency and pleasure and heart and passion and desire. Like, there's so much beauty inside that I believe a lot of people have no idea about because they're so busy disassociating in fear of what they're going to discover. It's like, you know, the story of, like, the beggar who's sitting on a box, and one day somebody tells him to look inside the box, and he discovers that there's, like, treasure in there, but he's been sitting there begging his whole life. And I feel like that's an amazing analogy of our internal world. Like, it's so beautiful. And I have to say that for me personally, having a tangible experience of that and breaking through all these layers of shame and was what allowed me to really, really fall in love with myself. And then I felt really lovable, and then others would fall in love with me. Like, they saw what I saw in myself, in the mirrors of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think Yeah, like there's just such power in that. And you're so right. Like, we're so busy. Like, for me, what really unfolded in, like, what you just said was, we're so focused on our physical bodies and loathing them and what we don't like about, our external appearance
Yeah.
or even our external world. But
Yeah.
you're so right. As soon as we start to do the work on the inside and connect with what's coming up, you do begin to look at yourself with so much more acceptance and respect and honoring, and the ripple effect of that is not just how we see ourselves when we look in the mirror, but how we see the outside world. And that's something that I really want to explore with you as well. Is, and you mentioned then about how, the relationships change externally once we start to connect with ourselves. And I just, funnily enough, before I clicked to start the live, I seen this quote, and I'm probably going to misquote it, but it was about how false intimacy is all about the performance and true intimacy is the presence. And I think that was by, his name is Jeff Brown. But I read it, I've never read it before, I've never heard of it. And that is a really on point, I think, quote about what you do.
Yeah.
You talk a lot about the performance, and you see it in people when it is a performance, but the way that you do it is, you do not judge, you do not, reject. Like, you meet people where they're at, and it's just from this wholehearted, loving place of love and respect. And I want to ask you then about how, what happens when we start to marry up all of these, we accept all of these elements to ourselves. And what is the difference then between false intimacy and true intimacy? And what can that look like in a, let's say, healthy or unhealthy relationship?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
That was a really big
It's such
question.
an awesome, like, it's like my favorite thing, right? Because I think when you fall in love with your internal world, you don't have to, you stop hiding. You don't have to hide anything about yourself. And gosh, I believe that that is the key to, like, a spicy, juicy, sexy relationship is because that's what people want. Someone there's nothing more attractive than someone who is really comfortable in their own skin, and there's nothing more exciting than someone who's willing to reveal to you all of their different flavors, like their whole kaleidoscope of their being. Like, that's an exciting person to journey with. And I love that nowadays I can show my partner everything, from, my really feisty, when I get feisty and angry, to, when I'm just like a little blubbering little girl mess. And there's no real judgment about any of it. That there's no, yeah, I shouldn't be this way. And, and I've never felt this loved because of it, because I know that I'm being loved for me. I know that I'm being seen. And I meet a lot of people that say, I don't feel seen. And I'm not loved for me. I'm just loved for my body, or I'm just loved for my money, or whatever. And it's like, well, do you let people see you? Of course, people aren't falling in love with you. And I'm talking from experience, because it was my word before I came into this. Because, like, of course people aren't falling in love with you. Of course people aren't choosing you because you're not giving them you. They absolutely would if you showed yourself, but you're not showing yourself. So what do they have to fall in love with? They've got the perfect Barbie and Ken robot kind of, doing all the things that they believe are going to lead, like, that are going to lead to love. But it's actually the absolute opposite. And if you think about, I think, like, children are ridiculously lovable, and it's not because they have big Bambi eyes and little button noses, which they do, which is so adorable, but it's actually because they are just themselves, so yeah.
So true. So then, where does the quote, Alee, what come to mind when you were discussing that? And it's something that we say and hear all the time. And I'm curious to know your thoughts on it. Is with taking everything that you just said in that, is that, what about the quote then? People see what they want to see.
Good one. Yeah.
Where does that fit?
Yeah, I mean, I feel that this is at the one of the other pieces, because I've just talked about vulnerability, right? Like letting yourself be seen, being vulnerable. This is, I suppose, the piece where, we don't, relationships, they're probably like the most scary aspect of life. They're probably the most scary aspect of life in some ways. They're the things that are most likely going to press on our deepest wounds, and the fear of abandonment can be huge, or the fear of rejection. And because in its truth, nothing is certain, a relationship is unpredictable. I think what happens is that instead of having the courage to see what's in front of us, we often superimpose an image of predictability onto this person. So if we have this belief that, like, all men are assholes, or all women are like martyrs, or whatever it is that we've got, the story of, or if we superimpose that someone's like godly or goddessly, and we pedestal them. Either way, we're attempting to create some safety by not being in the presence of this human who is unpredictable. Like, who knows how they're going to respond to something, or how things are going to turn. I think we use these projections as a protective way to sort of predetermine the story before it happens. And I also think that we see who we are. It's like, if I'm a really generous person, I assume that you're coming from a generous place. If I'm a bit of an angry person, I assume that you're going to get angry about the same things that I do. Particularly in the Awakening Connections programs, in Awakening Men and Awakening Women, this is really at the core of what we do work on, because it's, you cannot have an extraordinary relationship if you're bringing your predetermined beliefs and your projections and expectations onto this other human, because you won't be able to see them. And that,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And what just come up for me when you were sharing that is that, the more comfortable you are, and the more certain you are in who you are, and you know that you've got this, you can, you're fully safe in that, is that you're not so focused on what the other person does or says, and you're more comfortable in it being unpredictable because you can hold yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it allows, like, if I feel secure in myself, I'm able to truly love the person in front of me and see the person in front of me, because I don't need to see what I want to see. You know, in my last relationship, which was beautiful, I really struggled to see that it wasn't in alignment for this amazing man to not have not have children, or to have children before he was ready. It was such a painful prospect for me to be abandoned by this man, that I kind of like, there was this like, it's really not okay for you to be you. Like, you have to fit into my life, and we have to make this work, and it has to be that way, otherwise I'm going to die. Which is a crazy amount of pressure on one person.
Yeah, but it's so common.
Yeah.
Like, it's so common that, you really hit the nail on the head, is that I think we're either, or we've all had a relationship, we've got someone in our circle that's got that relationship of, you have to fit into my life this way, and I think, and you said, you can't be who you really are. You feel like you have to be accommodating, or you have to be someone else. Why do people settle so much in relationships like that?
I think people settle because they don't believe they can have what they want ultimately, and because they don't want to hang out in the uncertainty of the dating journey, actually. So they go either way. It's funny because dating is something I'm getting really excited about at the moment. The whole dating journey, because I feel it's the starting place to a great relationship, right? It's that openness and that willingness to meet different people and connect with them, and go on that messy roller coaster, right? Which I really see as a roller coaster. And because it's so, it could be filled with acceleration, but also with disappointments. We want to get off. Often we want to get off the roller coaster as quickly as possible, and we either like get off by just going, "You will do. I don't want to do this anymore. Let's like just sort this out. Let's like resolve this problem of the relationship thing. Let's make it work, even though it's not right. Or let's just get off the roller coaster in the opposite direction and say, you know what, I don't really care. I'm happy single. Which could potentially be your truth, that you're happy single, but I feel there's also other people that are not actually as happy as they say they are. There's actually a resignation around the possibilities of having love and having a really thriving, beautiful relationship. So I think at the core is not believing that you can have it, and also not being able to sit in the discomfort of the unknown that is dating. Yeah.
True. So, gosh, it is where it's funny because it's so true and so silly and stupid at the same time, is that we overcomplicate things so much.
Really
so much.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. If I want to ask you, being that you talk about bringing all of who you are to a relationship, and and when I was writing your intro, and I was just and I was it was whatever feelings come up when I think about you, is that what I wrote. And it was that the allowance of your mystic and your mother, and and your slut and your maiden, and all of these, your queen and your king, is we all are all of these things. How do you know when you bring that into a relationship and you're like, okay, this is all of who I am, and this is me, like, losing my shit, being in full wild woman? Or how does someone know when they're in, like, they're honoring wild woman or slut or whatever, or victim, or when you're in your unhealthy and
Right.
dishonoring?
Okay. For me, because I've done both, you know, I've had, and what I notice is that there's a very big difference between my expression when I feel I feel safe. Ultimately, like, there's a sense of anything that comes through me when I feel safe is healthy. Where things go a bit skewish is when I start to go into like connecting a little bit with my trauma, and that's when the unhealthy expressions come out. And I have now learned to distinguish between what happens in my body when when I'm starting to, veer out of that comfort state into that frequency of like desperation or defensiveness, or essentially what I find I do is that if I'm usually like going out, like I'm projecting out in some sort of an attack, I just breathe and bring it back into myself, and just feel it, what's going on in my body, and make myself feel safe before I continue, because all of it is me, including my ability to self-parent. And I have a really big belief that another part of having a healthy relationship is respecting people's boundaries. So in my healthy expression, I'm able to know that, for example, let's say I'm feeling a bit needy, right? Like that's genuinely what's going on. I'm feeling a bit needy. Expressing that to my partner, like really honestly, like saying, hey, babe, I would really love a hug. I'm feeling a bit needy at the moment, but I see that you're like kind of busy doing stuff, and it's really okay if you're not able to give me that right now. So it's completely honest. It's non-manipulative. I genuinely mean it. Like, I actually, before I even said those words, felt into, if he's not available, I'm going to go to my room and I'm going to take care of myself this way. And so it's really easy to ask for what I need and to own how I'm feeling, whatever that is. And there's also a place for more fiery expressions. There's also a place for having a big feisty yelling match, because I feel like that's also sometimes like it clears the air, it shakes up things that are stagnant. But again, I feel it's honoring. I call it like the feminine volcano, honoring that feminine volcano, because sometimes there's a guidance in it. There's a deep knowing that we can't intellectualize. It doesn't make sense, but when we let it move through, something really magical happens. And there's a difference between allowing that moment to happen and then going, oh, okay, wow, that was pretty fiery, like, but how am I feeling? I feel safe. Yep, this is good. Okay, maybe now we're going to a conversation about it. It doesn't become something of like violent, like abusive thing. There's a responsibility to it as well. There's like responsibility as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what was that? Sorry.
Asking your partner permission, saying, may I project on you? Like, is that okay? I've just got this like festering stuff. Like, do I have your permission? I just want to get it out, and then we can work through that.
And that's really invaluable what you say there, Alee, too, is ensuring that the person has the capacity to hold you in that, like, that's huge, is because there's been so often that, you know, like my partner and I have just unleashed, and he hasn't had the capacity
Yes.
to hold me in it.
Yes.
And that's not him or me, but upon reflection, I went, you know what? I kind of knew. And so just having that quick check in to go, okay, are you able to hold me in this or not? You know, and that's huge. But I know so many people who say, I've never had an argument with my partner, or I've never raised my voice. My kids have never heard me raise my voice. I never get angry. And I kind of go, I don't know. Like, I don't know how that is possible. Like that that feminine volcano is
Yes.
there in
Yes.
all of us.
Yes.
So what would you say to someone
Yeah.
who's going, I don't get angry, or I don't get, you know, I've never never raised my voice.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I probably could have been one of those people, you know, before I opened my body up and started to really connect with what was there. But the what I used to find is I used to get depressed a lot throughout those years, because I feel that yeah, I mean, anything anger is like a power. It's like a battery or something, or a explosive concoction. You know, it's very, very powerful. And if we suppress it and numb it, because we certainly do live in a society that there's they say anger is not safe, and anger can be violent, and anger is uncouth, and yeah, it's not ladylike. You know, nice girls don't get angry. Because we've been fed this, we've suppressed something that is just a natural emotion. And it's so important, because actually we get angry when our boundaries are violated, you know, when our values are violated. It doesn't mean that we are like that our values are the be all and end all, and that we're God and our value, you know, it just means that, like, but they are our values, right? And so the anger is information. It's an information of like, wow, okay, my value here, or my boundary here is being trespassed, and what do I need? You know, without that anger, we're missing out on that really valuable information, and we're pushing down this energy, which turns onto ourselves instead of, you know, because we're being so careful not to put it out there. It turns into ourselves, and we actually tend to become very, very tired when that happens. Very tired, very depleted, and we hold this sense of hopelessness or powerlessness in our lives, and it's it doesn't make for a very sexy relationship when we're you know, like pushing that down, or numbing it out and just being like, no, nothing bothers me. I'm not saying you have to have like massive fights or anything. It's just part of being human is to feel all the emotions from time to time.
Exactly. And what comes to mind then is, you know, is like it's like a pressure cooker, you know, where
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah.
it's constantly bubbling under the surface. And it just kind of dropped in then, is that feeling of so many times when we want to express and we keep it in. And then so many times when we need to go internal, we project and express. So I feel like we've got it the flip side around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, we're doing the opposite of what, you know, if really giving away our power in that moment of, you know, the power at this time would be to go in, and instead we're projecting it out and getting defensive. You know, and the times where we should be getting it out, we're keeping it in. And so it was really like just that loss of power. Like we give away our power so easily and so frequently in this.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, as I hear
Oh,
that, I think, it's not like there's a right or wrong, but there's simply, does it work for you? Is what you're doing, what I'm, like what we're doing, does it work for us?
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's a question for us to ask ourselves.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And if it's not, trying something else.
Yes, exactly. That's it. And go. And it especially, as you said before, is that every single relationship is such a roller coaster. And, being aware and mindful of where you're at, in this. And I was having a conversation with a friend last week you know, about sex and libido, and how it's really common. How my friend is a nurse, and she just went and they had a lady called Grace Georgia, I think her name was, talk to the medical industry about, so many people can get ill, and then as a side effect of that is that there can be a loss in libido or an incompetence and stuff like that. And it's not often spoke about. And something that, you bring to the table in unfolding this work is it brings alive a real, and my partner said on the weekend, it's amazing how, your work, the, dancing eros, but not just like awakening connections, all, I think it's you unlock that in people, is you, like what I'm trying to say is you unlock, you create a sexual desire and charge back into people's lives. And people will experience an increase in libido and that desire and hunger. But you don't actually always, most times I would say, but correct me if I'm wrong, directly talk about sex.
Yes.
So tell us about that mystery.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I just think sex is energy, and emotions is energy, and breath is energy, and life force is energy. So, and I think we're just naturally sexual, we're just naturally sexual. Like it's almost like, for me, when we talk about sex, it's like we'd be, it's like talking about food or something, it's like we're naturally hungry, right? We naturally get hungry because we need to be fed every however many hours. Same with sex, we're naturally sexual beings. And so if everything is like, if we're relating to our sexuality in a healthy way, like we're just, and we're relating to our world of emotion in a healthy way, we're relating to our power in a healthy way. It's almost like if it's just like unblocking this channel. There's this channel that's all connected to sex. So you could unblock your throat through doing a speaking event, and that could in turn activate your libido, because this part of you that's blocked, certainly you unblock your heart, and that's, going to channel into your libido. So it's a journey of unblocking, releasing the conditioning and the stories and the traumas or whatever it is that's stopping this energy just freely flowing through your body. And when that's freely flowing, we're sexually alive. Yeah.
Do you find that it's amazing? Do you know, like, it really, when you just stop for a second and you just go, and that you really allow it to sink in, is you go, it is just amazing that, like, what things, it's the unseen, the unseen things. And that, you've spoken about trauma and the stories a lot. And how do you know when someone's ready, or how does someone know that they're ready to release this? this trauma and the stories, how do they know? Like, if someone's watching and they go, you know, got shit, or I feel like this, or I really want this, is how do people know when their body's wisdom is ready to take the plunge and do this work?
Yeah, well, I think it starts that moment that you decide that there's an area in your life that you want a shift in. Like you're kind of done living at this level on whatever that area is, whether it's your relationship, like you're sick of being single, you're sick of being in shit relationships, you're sick of having only ever having this much money, like, you know, you're sick of this level of vitality, whatever it is. You get to a point where you just go, I want more. I really want to live this life. And you know, I'm at a point where I don't want to believe anymore that this is all there is, because when I actually look around, I can see that there are people out there who have this thing that I don't have and want, right? And I feel like that moment is a sliding doors moment. Like the moment you make that decision to go on a journey, it's like your life before that moment, your life was going to go in this direction, and all of a sudden you've now paved the way for it to go in a completely different direction, which is, I just think, is just phenomenal, because all this I don't know, like for me, I really see that in particular with relationships, because that's the area that I love, right? Could be with anything, but I just think far out, like, you know, you do these trainings, and that abusive relationship you were going to have, you now don't have, because you meet that person and you're not attracted to them at all. Like you just slide past them, you know, and you move your way through to something that's so much more beautiful, like bigger than what you ever thought was possible. And when that decision is made, you're then ready to move through anything that's in the way of that desire. And I mean, it doesn't have to be it's something that you're forcing, you know. If there is, like, say, like trauma or something, you know, it might take a while, you know. It's because when I talk about embodiment work, it's not like there is some mental reframing in the work we do, absolutely, and that alone can be very powerful and can make some significant shifts. But the body is a little bit like nature, you know. It heals at its own pace. You can't rush that healing, and so you can do that in a really safe way. So when you think about, are you ready, it's not like, all right, now we're gonna, like, you know, peel you open, you know, like we're not going to slash you open and you know, force that trauma out of you, you know. It's like we're creating an environment that is safe so that you can begin this unfolding, you know, you can begin this unraveling, the journey of letting go of those things that don't serve you. So
So true. And we often force things, don't we? Like, it's really incredible how often we try to, you know, even unconsciously or subconsciously try to manipulate a situation, to try and control a situation, to try and force us through, you know, and a rush through the healing journey when we're just not ready. And it's, you know, sitting in it and just being comfortable with being uncomfortable, you know, and maybe the shittiness of it.
Absolutely, especially with something like, say, grief, you know. If I had a dollar for every time I heard someone say, I thought I was already over this, why is it coming up again, or I should be over this already, you know. And it's like, it doesn't work that way, because the body has this beautiful wisdom where it allows you to feel the pain and the grief of something, and then it kind of closes that pain down, and we think, oh, it's done, but actually it was just a wave. You know, your body said, that's enough for now. That's enough pain for you to feel for now. We're going to have a little rest until you're ready, which is usually when you're feeling pretty good again. And we're going to, here we go again, you know, it sort of cycle for a little while. And over time, it lessens. Yeah. We have to be very patient with ourselves.
You do. You
Yeah.
really do. And it's so true, like just massively so. And I never would have thought that, you know, I would have been the person to, you know, rush the process. But even in my own grief in the past 10, nearly 11 months since losing mum, is that it's like, oh, come on already. Like, when am I going to feel normal? You know, and just wanting to rush through the process, but reminding myself to go, no, you can't force this. You cannot force this. But then when you speak about the waves, and it's so true, in your body's wisdom, it gives you enough pain then, and then you honor the waves. How does someone know the difference between honoring that wave and allowing that to move through you, and not anchoring that shit down and letting it control you and overtake you?
You mean like indulging in it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Said.
So it's really interesting because my experience of grief wasn't that long ago either. And what I noticed at the beginning was that it was my body's grief. So it was, I almost experienced 2 cycles. The first cycle was my body's grief. And so the pain in my body was so loud because I was used to letting it get loud, that it was, it was like there was no mind to it. And I remember a time, like, I'd wake up in the morning and it was like this stabbing pain that was so intense, and I'd be like, I haven't even had an opportunity to have a thought yet. Like, where did this pain come from? It was very much from my body. And then once that had subsided, it was like, now it was my mind's turn. It was like, now my mind had a whole bunch of stuff to say about it, and it was almost like my mind's group of like all the ideas and dreams and that I had. It was like a grieving and a letting go of that. And so it almost, the second part, the first part felt somewhat easy. I mean, it was very fucking painful, but it was like the remedy for the first part was surrender, let yourself feel it, be super kind to yourself, get heaps of rest, get heaps of support, you know, be like, you know, don't try and get the stuff done. That was the first part. The second part, I noticed I had to be a little bit more aware of where my thoughts were going, because with my mind grief. And so working with my mind, for me, it was like working with Byron Katie, with her methodology was incredibly helpful. I actually would spend, I think I spent like a whole week doing turnarounds, listening. I would listen to her audios nonstop. So, it was very much a journey of reframing, and you know, giving myself permission to, you know, just go, you know what, like, I'm just gonna be sad. Like, it's okay. Like, instead of fighting being sad, like, that was it was almost like there was a peacefulness to going, I'm not going to be sad that I'm sad. Like, I'm just going to be sad.
Or angry at myself for being sad.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
It's a commitment.
Chain reactions. Other emotions.
And just knowing it takes time. Yeah.
It does. It really does. What does gender reconciliation look like to you, or feel like?
Yeah. So gender reconciliation for me is about loving the opposite sex and seeing the beauty in the opposite sex, as in, you know, recognizing recognizing the full humanity in the sex, like the full spectrum of humanity. And I think sometimes when we've got clouded ideas of, you know, we have this sort of men against women, women against men, you know, because that's what's happened in throughout history. You know, there's this like a battle, you know, the feminist movement, the men's rights movement, and both I believe have brought gifts, right? But in terms of bringing some sort of balance and restoration that throughout history has been much needed. And there's also, you know, this thing of we're not just equals, you know, we're not just humans, we're not just all humans all together, you know, just doing our best. And so for me, it's about recognizing the full humanity and being freed from those old stories that have been passed on through the generations of, like, you know, men are dangerous, or, you know, women are this way. But I also think it's appreciating the differences between the sexes as well, which is, you know, I get a bit of a controversial subject. You know, is it nature or nurture? You know, my belief is it's a bit of both, and it also depends on the individuals involved. But yeah, it's like you know, if we are different, okay, I'm just going to say if, which I believe it is, but not everybody believes that. If we are different, like, how can we see the gifts in that difference instead of fearing that difference or trying to make it the same? You know, it's like we all have to have the same strengths and weaknesses at the same time. You know? It's like we have to be like equal on every level. It's like, well, we are equal, and we are equal with just different gifts. That's it, you know. And how can we celebrate the different expressions? Yeah, I mean, to me, that makes life really juicy. I mean, I love my relationships with men and boys, and I feel very seen and loved and respected by men. And also within that, it allows me to I feel very powerful as a woman. You know, there's no, I don't really see the paradigm of inequality between the sexes. Again, I know this is really controversial. I'm aware of it. I'm scared of the words coming out of my mouth, but that's not my lived experience. You know, I don't live with those glasses on. And throughout a lot of times in my life, I have felt much more powerful than men. And and what I came down to, because I played those power struggles growing up, you know, I played into this, you know, like, I'm going to manipulate you, and I'm going to do this, and it's going to be this tit for tat, and I'm going to keep myself safe by playing this game. And, you know, I've lived that. And now coming to a place where it's like, actually, you know, I can see you as a king because I know I'm a queen. So I'm not, there's no, I don't need to, I want to empower the men in my life, because I feel like when we're all empowered, we're healthy, you know, as opposed to that sort of fake power that's required when we feel powerless deep down. Yeah, and I think we have no idea how influential we can be in that regard, like how much we can empower the opposite sex, how much we can bring out the best in the opposite sex. I think we really don't know, because far out we can shift universes in each other. Yeah.
It really is. It's so true. It does. It just, it feels, powerful. It feels like, it feels huge.
Yeah.
You know, it just feels so, and so, you know, and I really think that we're ready for it as well. You know, I think so many of us, you know, we're craving for it, and that's because, as you said something so beautifully there, and it's so true, is it's that external claim of power that we want is actually coming only there because we feel powerless.
Yes.
It comes from a completely different intention. And I'm kind of curious then, do you go, is that, when you talk about, how we can make everyone great and, we can genuinely empower other people, but often we choose not to do that and we try to make them into someone else or make ourselves into someone else. Do you think it's because, like, it's that lack of, it's that feeling of lack in terms of, say, for example, if in a workplace, and often there's that power struggle in the workplace, is because people believe that there's not enough success for everybody, do you think that is just, our beliefs around it?
Big time, yeah. I mean, I think, I think scarcity is really at the core of it, because, if we, I feel like a lot of that comes from like clutching on too tightly to that one thing, that one person, It's like, I think that's absolutely it.
So true. If you wanted someone to experience one thing before they die, what would it be?
It would be okay, it would be like awakening their partner, like the person that they desire, like awaken, like experiencing, something I find delicious is like that moment when I see that I've awoken my man's desire, or that moment when I see that I've really touched his heart and he's like, just melting. It's just a really delicious experience to, touch someone actually in a really positive way, or that's it, I think.
Absolutely. It is. And it's often, it's the really simple things, isn't it? And that it's a beautiful thing.
You get to see your beauty and their beauty at the same time. It's a beautiful way to connect.
Yeah, definitely. What about for the people who often, I think, as parents, as as someone who has been in a relationship for a really long time, and I hear a lot of people talk about how, you mentioned it before, is like touched on it in terms of, the roller coaster, and it's like, is where we're at, the thought of going, okay, I'm with this one person for the rest of my life, and or parenting and stuff like that, like it's that, it's like, is this what my life actually really looks like forever, but they've got those internal desires to do something different or feel something different, what would you say then to the people who, who are curious about maybe experiencing, whether it be a sexual desire, without uprooting their family unit, the thought of, of being with one person forever, you know, and they're settling. What have you got to say to that, in terms of what
Okay. So I can only say something about, I guess, in terms of, we are so vast as humans and we have this unlimited potential. And so I I'm really respectful of of anyone's choices, as long as they're not harming anyone else, you know, how they want to live their lives, you know. And you know, full respect to people who love polyamory and all of that. But I personally am a fan of the one-on-one relationship and the one-on-one relationship life. And for me, if I'm getting bored of anything, if I'm getting bored of my city, if I'm getting bored of my job, essentially I know what's really happening is I'm bored of myself. I'm bored of myself inside of, you know, this arena, right? This arena, whatever the arena is. And it's time for me to expand. You know, it's time for me to discover more of myself and bring that. I might have to bring that to the table, you know, to say, you know, this I'm growing, this is me, you know. And what can happen is that our relationship gets, I believe that a relationship that is healthy, where two people are growing, it's almost like you get to points where it's like the relationship dies, like the old relationship of, you know, it's like you die, they die, and that relationship has to die. It doesn't mean that you've broken up. It just means that you're going through a transition where, you know, there might be fighting, there might be a bit of grief, there might be a bit of discomfort, and then this new phase can be born, you know, between the two of you. And I think it's that curiosity, that willingness to be endlessly getting to know your partner, you know, the different facets of your partner, maybe facets of them that they haven't even discovered themselves. I don't know, that's it's kind
I
of
love
that.
Yes. How then, if you want to live this, and I'm mindful because I know we need to wrap up, but I feel like I could talk to you forever, is how do you be a mum and, you know, with society's external sometimes perception around, you know, having a sexual appetite and, you know, around sexuality, is how then do you show up in the world and without the masks and be all of who you are and not be concerned with any, you know, other people's preconceived ideas around, you know, like, but I'm a mum and I have to be this way, or, you know, how do you show up in the world being all of who you are?
Okay. I'd say that I just really just stand for, you know, this is who I am. Like, you know, I mean, it doesn't mean I'm going to wear like inappropriate clothing to pick up my son from school. But I think, you know, nothing's changed really. You know, nothing has changed before I was a mum, you know, like I'm still the same person. You know, I now have the responsibility of this beautiful little human that I get to be privileged enough to care for. And I guess, I don't know if that's like enough of an answer, but
No, absolutely.
yeah.
And that's it. Like, and that is, it's that simple, right? Like, it actually can be that simple.
Yeah. It's,
you know.
It,
And
I
again,
think
it
it
really
surprises
comes down
me.
to just,
I guess it surprises
is that
me.
so?
In some ways, it surprises me. It's so separate to like my reality that anything would shift because you're a mum, that it even surprises me that there's thoughts around, like, I get it, there's that whole sort of Madonna whole, you know, paradigm of, you know, the like I've had that from, like, you know, when I worked as an escort, I had clients who you know, they tell me they were cheating on their wife because they, you know, I wouldn't get a blowjob from like the mother of my children. It's like this real like sort of cut off disconnect. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Mm.
It is such a, oh, you know, it's such a beautiful journey, and you just go, it's, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just that, yeah. I'm thinking just about like the rules, and it's like, oh, well, as if this can happen. It's like, well, why can't it? You know, like it's
Yeah.
just,
I think it's actually really
it's,
important as a parent to be connected to your sexuality, because your children are absorbing absolutely everything. And if you're
yeah.
comfortable, like if kids are seeing, like mum and dad kiss passionately, or they're seeing little expressions of sexuality, they are left with, it's sex is beautiful, and sex is about connection. And I'm not talking about exposing them to anything inappropriate, but I'm just talking about just being comfortable with sexuality, so that they can be comfortable with sexuality. And I know it's a really scary one for parents, because it's like, oh gosh, I don't want if my child's going to be unsafe if they're comfortable with sexuality. But it's also a great opportunity to teach children about being safe, and about boundaries, and about like when my child asked me about sex when he was like 5, I said to him, it's a really beautiful thing between adults, and it can be, because it can be dangerous for children. It can be dangerous because it can hurt your body, because your body's not ready for it, and it can be also dangerous because it can hurt your heart, because your heart hasn't grown up enough, to be able to deal with it. But when it's between adults, it's this really beautiful thing that you can look forward to someday. And that felt like it didn't come out that easily. I was a little bit like, oh, what do I say? But we often do when we get caught off guard by our kids' questions.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think it's a gift.
That's it.
Instead of having to hide, shame it, or
Yes.
you know.
And that's, yeah. And, you know, just dismantling the idea that because you're a mother or a father, then you need to do, be, act, you know, a certain way. And I honestly believe that it is the most important thing that we can gift to our children is show them what a healthy relationship looks like, what, you know, the importance of intimacy, and, you know, and that true intimacy that we were talking about earlier is that, you know, as soon as you step into performance, then, you know, then it's false.
Yeah,
You know, it's not real.
absolutely. That's what kind of makes me sad when people say, I'm staying in this awful relationship for the kids, and I'm like, oh
Yes.
no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
if it's awful,
No.
get out. Like, you know, I've been a single mom now for 8 years. Since Seth was 2, he's 10, and between that time, I had a ridiculously beautiful relationship that my son got to witness, and then he got to witness the pain of it ending, and then he also got to witness, and then mum got another amazing boyfriend, and how beautiful is their relationship? And so, I hope he grows up with like a sense of abundance, and a sense of beauty in relating, and it's not the fairy tale necessarily. You don't necessarily meet the person and live happily ever after. Life is life, shit happens, and it's how you meet that, right? I think that's the happily ever after relationship you can have is the one with yourself, where you never betray yourself. That's it.
Exactly.
You have a lifelong affair with yourself. And then you can't help but attract beautiful things along the way with that.
Yeah. So true. So true. Gosh, yeah, so true. So I think that's probably a really beautiful note to finish up on. But before we go, Ali, is that I want to ask, what is turning you on at the moment?
Yeah. So the Awakening Connections programs are really turning me on. They are the love of my life at the moment. And we have the Awakening Men program, which is a training for women, and that's going to happen in Feb with myself, Shani, and Jared, which is like amazing. 4 days of amazingness. And in like 10 days or something, on the 12th of September, we've got Awakening Women, which is a training for men, so that men can learn about women and bringing out the best in women. So that's happening. But also I'm facilitating a dating program. So that's for single women who want to open to love. Yeah, single women who are open to love. So that's coming up in October. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. And is that an online program, Alee, or
yeah, that one's an online program. I'm going to run a 14-day self-dates challenge mid September, and that's also like online. Yeah, so they're online programs, so you can do them from anywhere. Yeah.
Nice. And that's even when you were sharing your journey through, you know, I can't even remember how long ago it was, but you know, you were dating yourself.
Yeah.
And that was seeing that it was such a beautiful reminder to just go, you know what, like take the time, you know, and just, but that exploration and journey you went on, I just want you to know, like the permission then that you gave everybody else that came along virtually with that, you know, with the journey when you were dating yourself was absolutely amazing. You know, and so it was really good. It was beautiful. So beautiful. I will make sure that, you know, I put all of the links to everything in the show notes. But I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show today. I've wanted to have you on for ages, so it's so great to have you on here. But also as well is for just doing the amazing work that you do, you know, and I would never ever in a gazillion years, I've done so much work, like every single friggin' spirituality, personal development, every, you know, course in the world. But you know what, like working with you was probably one of the most transformational. You know, in 20 years, my partner has never been intrigued by, oh, well, I really want to do that. You know, like he's been like, yeah, you just go and you just do it. And I did Dancing Eros for the first time last year. And it was the first time that he actually stood up or sat up and took notice and went, holy fuck, like I want what she's having, you know. So, and that is, it's huge. So the work that you do is amazing, and you are changing the world and changing lives every single day. And I'm so fucking grateful that, you know, I get to live in a time and walk along this journey with you. And please continue being you, because you give everybody else permission to be all of who they are and show us that it is possible to live this all-encompassing, beautiful, wholehearted, juicy fucking life, because, you know, you really are paving the way for all of us. So I just want to say thank you so much for all the work that you've done for me, but for everybody. And, you know, so thank you so much.
I don't know what to say. My pleasure. What a pleasure. What an absolute pleasure. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on your show today. And yeah, I'm just really grateful that I get to do this work. It's the love of my life. Thank you.
We are grateful that you do it. So thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you to everybody else watching. I'll be back next week at the same time with another amazing guest. But for right now, Alejandra, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you around really soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this epic conversation. I'm Renee Main and I am over and out for now. However, we can continue this conversation on our Facebook page, facebook.com/hedonistic queen, or jump onto the website reneemain.com.au and you can explore what your own hedonistic way might look like.